Carolina. I've been teaching for Iredell Statesville Schools now for 32 years. I've taught all levels. I'm currently teaching high school at South Iredell High School. Go Vikings. Um, Basically, we went on spring break night, March 7th, and never returned due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Most of my students left their supplies. We were right in the middle of a painting unit, and of course that's hard to do at home. We were told we needed to learn how to virtually teach. The students would virtually learn, and so I have really had to come out of my comfort zone. I have learned how to make some videos. I've learned about Screencastify. I've learned all kinds of things for one reason only. I didn't want to send my students to other people's websites, other people's YouTubes. I wanted to feel like my students were in the classroom with me. I'm with them. They can hear me, that I'm actually doing the instructing. And this was important to me. And then thought maybe some other people would like to learn what my students are learning. The unit that we are going into is called Perspective, What's the Point? And my students and whoever is interested is going to learn all about perspective. What's the point? And you learn about perspective. I did not learn a lot of this until I was even after college, and I took art all through high school, all through college. And when I learned especially about the vanishing point or two vanishing points, it really opened my eyes to what we could do with our drawings, and be able to teach my students was just incredible. And I hope that you will join me and my class in some drawing activities involving perspective. My intent is for my students and whomever is interested, let's take our minds off of what's going on in the world for a little bit. Let's learn something new, and let's have fun. Let's let art take us away. So the title of this unit is Perspective, What's the Point? What is perspective? Perspective is what gives a three-dimensional feeling to a flat, two-dimensional surface, such as a drawing or painting, piece of paper, cardboard, anything that is flat. For example, here's an empty canvas, empty space, and here's a painting that gives that illusion of depth on that flat surface. So let's be specific. There's 7 techniques of perspective, or how to use perspective. We have what's called a foreground, middle ground, background. In the foreground, objects appear brighter in color. They appear more detailed and larger in size. As you go back toward the middle ground, the objects appear lighter in value, smaller in size, and way back in the background, things are very, very small. Notice how they go up in the picture plane as well, and no detail at all. I'm sure there's trees back there, but we can't even see them because they're so far away. We have what's called overlapping. These buildings are overlapping the mountains. The tree is overlapping the mountains and the middle ground, and that gives that illusion of space or depth. And we have we use shading and shadows. This tree, it's not just one value. It's got darks over here. We know the light's coming from somewhere over here because of the shadow. So it gives that tree the illusion of depth. It looks real. It looks like a form and not just a flat shape. And atmospheric perspective. Atmospheric perspective, again, way, way, way in the background. Things appear like these mountains appear very, very light. The further away the mountains, the lighter they get. And they have this sort of bluish tint, which is really an illusion. If you were to walk back and go to these mountains, they're not going to be blue. But it's just how our eyes see it from that far, far away. In a bright, pretty day, colors or values are a little darker here, and they get lighter and lighter as you head toward that horizon line. And then the vanishing point, which we're going to really talk about. Parallel lines that normally would be parallel, they're going away from you toward the horizon line. They appear to meet at a point. This one has a curve. That's fine as well. So we're going to really delve into that with this unit. The rules of perspective applied to Western art developing during the Renaissance period in Florence, Italy, in the early 1400s. Prior to this time, paintings were stylized and symbolic rather than realistic representations of life. So people and things appeared flatter. In this particular painting, there's something that just looks a little off in this building, because they weren't aware of these perspective techniques. Looking at this painting over here, there's something not in the right proportion for her head. Her nose is way too long. Look at the size of her compared to the baby. This is Madonna and child. Look how tiny he is. So it was the Renaissance artists that figured out these particular techniques for using perspective. And again, here's the same ones we talked about in the landscape. This is Leonardo da Vinci's painting called The Last Supper. It's a fresco painting. So it's got all the things we talked about, foreground. The middle ground's actually this back wall, and the background's way out in the window. Things appear lighter, fuzzier back there, obviously smaller in size. In the foreground, we see lots of more detail. We have shading. We have shadows. Overlapping. This whole table and the disciples and Jesus are overlapping the walls, overlapping the background, which gives that illusion of space. And in particular, it was the Renaissance artist Filippo Brunelleschi that actually is widely credited with the discovery of linear perspective or the vanishing point. But Leonardo is definitely using it. Same with Michelangelo, Donatello, Raphael, all the Renaissance artists. So what's the deal about the vanishing point or points? Linear perspective uses a geometric system consisting of a horizontal line at the eye level. This is particularly like the horizon line. A vanishing point or points, we'll talk about 2 points in a minute, and lines that converge toward those vanishing point or points to create the illusion of space and depth. Okay, making things, again, look three-dimensional on a flat surface. See, normally if we were a bird looking down, these two lines would be parallel to each other. So would these two fence lines. But we are looking back toward the horizon, and therefore what would normally be parallel to each other go to the vanishing point. They actually will make a diagonal and meet at that dot. Same thing with these boxes. The sides of these boxes go to this vanishing point. Inside this room, these two lines would normally be parallel if you're looking down from the ceiling. But they're going away from us. They would go to the vanishing point. Same thing with the tops of these windows and the bottom, the top of the door, even the edges of this room go to that one vanishing point. Here, the sides of the building go to the vanishing point. And I want you to notice the difference because we're going to talk about 2 point in a minute. With 1 point, if you're looking at buildings in particular or three-dimensional objects like this, you're seeing the whole side here, and it's only this side that goes to the vanishing point. Same thing with these boxes. Same thing. You're seeing the entire front of these shapes here, and it's the 3D part that goes to the vanishing point. So what makes you need 2 vanishing points? Before we get to that, let's look at Leonardo da Vinci's Last Supper again, because the vanishing point is so clear where it is. Again, these are tapestries. They would normally be parallel to each other. If you were standing here looking at that wall, they would be parallel, but we're standing here looking back. The top of the roof, and there's even these wood slats that go to the vanishing point. Now, it's a little tricky here. The vanishing point looks like it's on Jesus's head, in particular this one eye. But it's not on Jesus's head. It's behind Jesus's head. Remember, vanishing points have to be on horizon line. And horizon lines can't be in the foreground. They're always in the background. So this particular vanishing point is right behind Jesus's head out the window. 2 point perspective. Let's look at the difference. And the difference is we're not looking at the whole front of one side. We are looking at objects from the corners. These boxes we're looking at from the corner. this here, this here. So all you have to draw is this one vertical line to make this box. And then this line goes to this vanishing point, this vanishing point. These stay vertical. Everything on this side of the box goes to that vanishing point. Notice the vanishing points here are on this particular horizontal line. They are on the same line. Okay. Some vanishing points actually go off the page, such as this one here. This one right here. Here's a real picture of cities and buildings. And if you kept going, this vanishing point would probably be way over here. And this one about right here. So sometimes especially with 2-point perspective, the vanishing point can be off the picture plane. So we're going to start very simple with 1-point perspective. We're going to do some activities starting with how to draw boxes with 1-point perspective.